Right, so I'm going to be going over a Lee Changho game today. It's a little bit more complicated than I originally intended it to be. I hope everyone will be able to follow along regardless. No, you do not see stones, because I have not placed them yet. But you will see stones in a moment, never fear. So, Lee Changho's black, and as I'm sure you are tired of me saying every single lecture, we do not have anything completely unusual in the opening. I like normal moves. If abnormal moves are your thing, congratulations. Not what we're going to be seeing in my lectures typically. Unless someone specifically recommends a game that features them, then I might go over it. No, I do not have it up on livestream. Livestream quality is horrible, so I've just been recording this straight off my screen. And then I upload it later to YouTube. I do not do live stream anymore. Quality is just... don't like it. Do not like it at all. And hello. Alright, so it's a modern pro game, and one thing that I'm sure everyone knows by now is that modern pros are on a bit of a, bit of a Chinese variation kick. It's what they're playing, either low Chinese or mini Chinese or micro Chinese. Everything seems to be Chinese lately. And we're not going to break tradition yet. Black approaches the 4/4 stone. He could have, as you know from last lecture, gone ahead and enclosed for orthodox Fuseki. That would have been fine. If he really wants to be aggressive, he could have even gone ahead and approached his opponent's cornerstone. But that gets a little bit more complicated. Yeah, another thing that I'm not very good at is proper terminology. So, sorry about that too. Especially since I've had students that preferred Japanese terms, I've had students that preferred Chinese terms, I had one that preferred Korean terms. No, I can't do that. Sorry. Suffice to say, white has his choice of options here. He could go ahead and pincer. He could go ahead and approach. Both of these would be very common. He decides to simply go ahead and enclose and get a nice little one-point jump for himself, choosing to get himself some territory and influence. Black plays the mini Chinese that I mentioned, and now we're seeing something a little bit surprising. Usually when we see the mini Chinese, what is our thought here as white? What should we be worried about when we see this? Why are we worried about Q10? We can complete a framework at Q10. That is a good explanation, yes. White should know that black wants to go ahead and finish his framework, because then the only way for white to approach this is somewhere around label tool, somewhere around A, which puts white exactly where black wants him to be. He's jumping in pincer, there's a framework so black can continue expanding and secure territory while attacking. It's pretty much the optimal scenario. But apparently white says, forget all of that, I'm going to get my own Chinese variation going here, and I guess we're going to see who can out-Chinese the other. So that's a little bit unusual. I don't see that very often. But now black has a decision to make, because black can go ahead and take his large point, but because the top is open, that will let white take his large point as well. So what is he going to do? Isn't who flat and over-concentrated Babubusta? No. Let's go ahead and look at it from a different perspective. Let's assume we play this instead. And white approaches. Nothing wrong there. We're not going to pincer. We're simply going to go ahead and play the exact same thing. Make a territory since we've got that low, nice stone at R9. And then, of course, after that, would probably go ahead and expand or something. And if you can hear the plane flying overhead, sorry about that. I have my window open. Yeah, if you want to try and prevent your opponent from playing a Chinese variation, you could go ahead and pincer or approach. Your opponent will not be able to play Chinese variation at that point. No, R9 isn't overextended. If that was overextended, then the Chinese variation in and of itself would be bad, because you could just go ahead and approach this way and say, haha, now you have bad shape. But this is still good. The only way to jump into here and reduce is either at one of these 2 points. And neither of these can live locally. They have to run away. So this is fine. But yes, white now has given black an interesting option. Is black going to continue getting his framework? Is black going to worry about his opponent's framework? What is he going to do? Really, G16. G16 is not that far off from what black decides to do. Because black does in fact go ahead and approach. Which is a bit of an odd approach. A lot of people look at this and they don't see what black's trying to do here. I mean, doesn't this just allow your opponent to get an enclosure? Shouldn't we go ahead and approach and block that enclosure from taking place? Well, no. Special circumstances in this case. We don't want to play here, simply because we know if we do, then we're going to be in a little bit of a problem. We're living small, white's getting influence, able to solidify some of his territory. So we don't want to do that. We don't want to play this way. So instead we go ahead and approach from the other side. It allows white to enclose, but this is not solid territory yet. This shape isn't quite secure. There's still Aji. We still have Aji at A. There's still potential back in the corner. So it is giving some territory to your opponent, but it's not solid. We can potentially reduce it later. And you've also potentially diffused a relatively volatile situation that straight out approaching it high might be, where you're being pushed around and kept low and your opponent's getting all that from attacking you. So this is acceptable. Question, G16 is classic, but is G17, F17 new idea? They're both fairly classic, I thought. Anyway, it is now white's turn. 1 second, feel inclined to put K17 and K16. Bad idea? Not a bad idea. That's a question of which one you want more. Are you trying to develop more of a framework there? Are you trying to go for solid territory? What are you trying to do? Well, if you're trying to go for a framework, then I guess you could try it. But the minute you play that high, you've also just made it easier for white to approach this later on. Because he can play at M17 to threaten to undercut you. You're probably going to have to defend that, give him free moves. So black played low. And now white is again faced with that happy little option. What are we going to do against what black's getting? Because we don't want to let him continue and finish off the right-hand side, I don't think. So, no, you're not an hour late. I just started like 10 minutes ago. You're fine, Shizuka. Okay. I thought KGS was set to the right time. It should be set to your computer's clock, but I'll look at that later, I guess. But yes, one thing that white probably doesn't want black to do right now is get Q10, sorry, and finish off the framework. Tie the corners nicely together, have the frameworks all nicely working. So we might think, I'm going to go ahead and do some sort of split here. That would probably be, I don't know, that's probably most comfortable to me. Maybe even just flat out approach the 4-4 stone. Again, hard to make up my mind between one of these two. One thing I would not have thought, though, is to simply go ahead and approach the corner. But I'm not a pro. White is apparently comfortable with this. He decides to tackle the problem head-on by diving exactly where black wants him to go. R6 would be kind of passive. Oh, for what? Yeah, you mean for black's next move. That's a little odd to play low. Usually, as stated, we usually play high. Why does black want this? Because of this stone. Black already has white pincered, and it is his move. So he's already attacking white, and he gets to have a free move to follow up that attack. Not only that, but if we think about how white wants to go ahead and settle, as just mentioned, we can't really get an extension here, can we? We can make a small knight, but that's not alive. We want to go ahead and extend farther back, with a shape kind of like this. So black follows up as we would expect. And we play usual. Gonna go ahead and settle. But instead of make the framework, or not the framework, the base, white decides to go ahead and attach rather than make the base. Because if we make the base, probably gonna come up, and we're gonna probably play Joseki, in which everything of black gets nice and secured, as well as continues to make a framework. Black gets very, very happy from this position. Meaning the bottom's fine, the right's fine. White's not completely fine on the bottom. So he decides to do something else. He's going to go ahead and play very aggressively. He's going to go ahead and attach. Now, why is he playing aggressively and trying to attach to the stone? What is he trying to do? Bolko and Eddie and maybe might have mentioned it. Might be on the right page. But yes, these two stones are a little bit overextended if white gets a wall here. We can go ahead and throw it in. I think you might be. I'm not sure entirely what you mean by destroy territory. If you're eyeing the bottom, then yes. If you're eyeing the right-hand side, I'm probably going to say no. But yes, these two stones of black are a little bit overextended. Black's definitely going to want to go ahead and play another move. Let's say either at, I don't know, somewhere, in order to protect white attacking them, if he's not careful. So, black attacks, and white's playing extremely vulgar moves just to get influence, because you know what he wants. He wants to go ahead and get something here. Only trouble with this, though, is black is now on the 5th line. Not only is black on the 5th line, but we don't really have much in the way of a really good shape for white. I mean, if we try to attack, we can envision a move at 03, for example, played against white, and suddenly this little snake that he's created is under severe attack. So we've got a very, very big problem here. White is on the 6th line, but I don't think white is in any danger of actually getting anything even remotely looking like territory on the 6th line. I know, but a lot of people watch this, so I have to point that out. So white decides to play inside first, rather than go back and attack. Because he's probably envisioned attacking this is going to result in an attack against his group. And then what is he going to do? That doesn't seem to be going anywhere. We can't keep following this up. We're almost dead here. We don't really know if it's good or bad yet. I mean, he's got potential. We just don't know how he's going to use this wall just yet. But he decides to go ahead and reduce the right-hand side before it gets too large, because this is obviously getting growing out of hand. We don't want black to get all this for himself. And I'm apparently ignoring when white R14. Let's see what we're trying to figure out. Okay. Oh, pincer. Okay, I see. I see what you're saying. You're saying pincer here. And yes, black does pincer here. I mean, black could go ahead and just take territory. But then white gets exactly what he wants. He wanted to go ahead and reduce the side, and he's going to go ahead and get that fairly easily. Instead, he pincers. White's got a decision to make. Does he run out? Does he settle? In the game, he decides to settle. Probably because he doesn't want a bunch of weak groups running around. Because this isn't going to live locally, and the bottom isn't living locally. So that would be very, very strange. So he goes ahead and settles. And he plays Chiseki that everyone here knows. We've played it all a billion times. But there's one downside to this, and what's that downside? Yes, Babusta and Eddie immediately pick up on it. We've just given Sensei to black. So what are we going to do? Are we going to go ahead and worry about reducing the left-hand side? Are we going to try to go ahead and live in the corner? Absolutely not. We're going to worry about our 2 stones, and we're going to worry about how the stones of white don't really have a base as of yet. So rather than worrying about maybe reducing territory at A, as some of my students like to do, or taking more territory at B, he's going to go ahead and look to his own problems first, or the problems that he can make for his opponent in terms of attacking a weak group. So black goes and threatens to enclose everything. Indeed, this game already does look good for black. That is true. That is very true. And that's because we have absolutely no idea what white was trying to do when he played this group on the bottom right. It kind of seems like a classic mistake almost. But again, that's assuming white doesn't know what he's doing with this either. If he's got something that he had up his sleeve that he wants to try out, who knows? Might go some other way. But right now it looks like he's just having a very, very tough time. So obviously we have to decide, what are we going to do? Are we going to try to cut through this and give us another weak group because that's going to get sliced off? Bad idea. Are we going to try and live locally and let ourselves get completely surrounded? Well, then black is completely strong everywhere and that's going to really, really suck. So bad idea. Only thing we can really try here is get out. But that's leaving behind a cut. If black's going to take it. Black is still somewhat of a patient player, despite the changes that his style has gone through. He simply goes ahead and protects himself. White gets to attach to try to make shape. Black curls underneath. Since white's base is still open, he's not settled yet. He's got to decide what he's going to do here. So he tries to create some trouble for black, who goes ahead and immediately cuts him off. And now we've got a bit of a fighting game on our hands, because suddenly we're getting weak groups all over the place. With this extension, we've got some Aji with our cutting stone finally. Black's cutting stones are getting in trouble in the middle. So we've got some potential here for white. But the question is, which is more important? Can white go ahead and actually kill these 3 stones anytime soon? Doesn't look like it. Most he can do is extend, and black's going to extend and essentially get a wall here. And after all of that, we still don't know how that cutting stone's going to actually live, so that doesn't seem like it's going to be a problem. Can white force us to kill the stone? Yes, but again, white might force us to kill the stone, but these are still in no problem. Whereas our cutting stones, which are keeping 2 very important groups of white nice and separated, we definitely want those cutting stones to be strong, because we don't want white to attack those cutting stones and thus help his group. BL8? Yes, indeed. He goes ahead and plays a nice strong move to keep them separated. He could go ahead and jump, but that also gives peeps, and not good. Nice strong move that doesn't give much Aji behind. Now, white's got to decide what's being threatened. Is the top 2 stones being threatened, or is his entire group being threatened? And considering he's still nicely undercut, and now we can kind of envision a move being played to completely surround him, it's fairly easy to see that his group on the bottom is under a lot more threat than his 2 cutting stones. So, understandable to see why he jumps that group out. It's just a question of priorities. Black goes back and says, my territory, yummy yummy. White continued to try to strengthen himself, because he's going to go ahead and try to make something in the middle. He wants to make his group as strong as possible, that way he can start to assault those cutting stones. Only if you're into corn dogs. Now, Black decides to go ahead and actually attack first, rather than just respond. Oh, wait, sorry. Comment. Can't Black just play elsewhere and kill the cutting stones and take corner at c3 later? Well, that would actually be immediate, not later. Because the minute White actually cuts through, we have to go back and do some annoying reading and figure out if this group of Blacks on the bottom is alive yet. And considering the throw-in, not sure. Because if White follows up, we can't really cut that. We'll have to respond immediately. Looks like looks like it might be bad. Duh. 1 second, my mouse is doing stupid things. I must clean it. Alright. I'm using a trackball, thank you very much, that is so old. I don't know when I got this thing. I want to say back in 2003, 2004? And has not died on me. In fact, it got discontinued for a while, and the only way to get a replacement of it was to spend like $200 on some old discontinued product. But now they're kind of making them again, so I'm happy. If this actually does die on me, I can get a replacement. But yes, I love my little Microsoft trackball, and I always will. But I'm good to go again. Anyway, so Black attacks rather than simply goes ahead and defends. White cuts through. White cuts through. I could edit those out, but I'm usually too lazy to. And rather than cut through, he's going to leave that Aji later on. See if White wants to go back and fix. But White is not going to go back and fix. He's going to attack. The exchange was good for Black because Black created Aji here. It would have been a lot better for Black if he could have conned his opponent into responding, because then he got to defend himself in Sente, and then he could go back and keep attacking. But right now, unfortunately, White did defend himself, but those two stones here are still weak. So he got more out of it than if he had simply gone ahead and defended. Because he doesn't want to use that Aji yet. He could go ahead and cut you. But then where are you going to go? I mean, if you're going to cut, I guess you're going to take. And now you're making... Oh, sorry. Am I missing something? No, go eventually. Why don't you just cut it G3? That was G3, wasn't it? I wasn't paying attention. Oh, no, it wasn't. Oh, that cut. Oh, play here. Huh. I see what you're saying now. Well, now you've made the game a lot more complicated because now we also have to deal with this. So now not only do we have to figure out who's going to be living and dying in the corner, we have to figure out if this is going to be alive. I think it is, because it still has the extension. And that's going to be Sente, otherwise it's going to connect up. So I think black can live down here. But you're also giving up your corner, and you haven't profited in the center yet. So really, white's just making this horribly complicated for himself. So you really have to figure out how this is going to turn out before you play this way. Otherwise, your territory's gone and you don't really get anything for it. But alright, so white goes back in caps. No surprise that black defends, especially since he just created more Aji here. White tries to get rid of it. And now we have an interesting situation here. Because we've got 2 small knights, we've got cut points, we've got cutting stones which we might be able to bring back to life. So black decides to see how much Aji there is. White says, no, you're not going to cut through me. Black continues trying to use Aji. And this is nice. I liked this move. Because now we're really getting into some slight reading problems here. Because how are we going to cut? How are we going to save our group? Because we can't do anything crazy. We can't, for example... We can't go, for example, play here. That doesn't work. Because at this point, we're in severe trouble. Black gets to cut through us, and it's not even over there yet either. Black gets to cut through us, black gets to get stronger, black looks like it's going to get Sente to even make sure that we can't even live. So that's a problem. Same thing with going this way. This way doesn't really work, because no matter how we play the Atari, we're still in trouble. So he goes ahead and he pushes this way. But that still lets black cut through. So how are we going to live? White gives it a shot. He plays M6 first. Threatening to make eyes. Good question. Who does win? Wouldn't it be weird if I said black win, or if I said white wins the game? That would be quite the amazing turnaround. But sadly, I kind of picked this game because I thought this exchange was a little bit reminiscent of the game that I played in my 3-Dan series. And that it kind of struck me as an overplay, just as a much higher level overplay than I saw. So I wanted to go ahead and go over it. Yeah, the one that I'll link you later. But, alright. Black goes ahead and takes a liberty away from white. Has to respond. And then throws into kill. So if white wants to live, he's got to kill something, because this does not live locally. So he tries to cut through. And black connects. Which is also, I think, very, very nice. I mean, is he trying to connect and just trying to kill everything? No. He's taking his profit. White can try to do something with these cut points, but it looks like, as of right now, these stones are going to be left behind if he indeed wants to try to save half of his group. White tries to cut. Black says, Ko's are fun. Let's go have one of those. So white throws in, and we instantly go to Ko. Plays a threat. Black ignores. So white obviously follows up. Black profits. These are now dead. Why did black play 04? For 04? I'm not seeing a move at 04. Some moves back he played at 04? Really? Are we looking at the same game? Oh, instead of Ko, why doesn't he play 04? Okay. Now that's making a bit more sense. So play here instead of take? Is what you're saying? Ah. Well, trouble is, alright, I guess you're trying to go ahead and take your profit. Okay. That makes sense. Trouble is, there's still a lot of aji here. For example, if you're going to really take your profit, you're either going to Ko, or you're going to go ahead and just take these stones right now. If you take these stones right now, the bottom ones are still obviously dead. Because you can't push through here anymore, because that's, I don't know, a bunch of Atari we have to take. And at that point, we've got ourselves our happy little problem here. So he goes here. Black might get the profit, white might get the profit. So it looks like a little bit of an even exchange. White cuts off, tries to kill. Black seems to have Sente now. The right group of white stones, bottom right hand corner, obviously dead. Black's bottom stones, looks like those are toast as well. However, we have linked up to the center, so that's all fine. So what are some ideas for black here? N9 is in danger? What's in danger? Oh, white's N9. Okay. Yeah, happy little empty triangle. That is true. That is in danger. That is in danger. And we could see what Aji is left at, the 3-3. Exactly. Right now, the exchange kinda threatens? No, favors white, simply because this is an enormous corner that he's getting for himself here. Considering that those are just a bunch of dead white stones. White gets to go ahead and kill stones, but he also has a very large corner. So that's a lot of territory. So we could go ahead and play 3-3, threaten to bring our stones back to life, and reduce white at the same time. This is probably going to be Sente. We could try and attack the center stones. But we don't really know where that's going to lead. We don't even know if white's even going to try and actually defend the 3 stones, which are now pretty useless. I mean, these cutting stones aren't really important, are they? Because these cutting stones are cutting 2 groups which are already alive. Well, yeah. Not really even cutting anymore, yeah, that's true. So instead he plays a 3-3 to see if his stones, which he just gave up, have actually been given up. Expanding on the right-hand side, could try and do that. Probably Gote. But he decides a 3-3 is larger. Because it's definitely going to be Sente. White is not going to let these stones come back to life. Otherwise, that exchange was just awful. Yeah, C3 is game. Again, Sente, can't let these connect up. That's just bad. Black's going to try and live. White says, I'm going to try to kill you. And now we see that killing the 3-3 is difficult. Not sure if it's impossible because we can deny the corner for one eye. He's got to jump out. C8? That leaves behind your stones. You're creating a large knight there, and that's probably going to get cut. Instead, black plays b8. That way there's no chance of cut, and he's getting a little bit of a larger base for himself, threatening to escape. White says, fine, you can live there. I'm going to go ahead and reduce you on the right-hand side, because this is getting too large. Now that black has so much strength there, now that his groups are all fine, obviously what's coming up is going to be an expansion, as I think Shizuka wanted to do. So black defends, white tries to bring his stones back to life. Black doesn't allow white to connect. So he goes back and tries to kill black on the left-hand side. Still very difficult to live. Tries to cut him off. And now it looks like we're still not living locally, so that's a bit of a bummer. But for the moment, that's about as far as we're actually going to go ahead and play out those moves on the left-hand side here. We could keep trying to connect and keep trying to kill black, but there's too much Aji now. I mean, the minute we connect, we've also got throw-in, then we're going to be able to get this for an eye. The push is going to be Sente, the Hane is going to be Sente. N4, N4, N4. Alright, good question. Let's not ruin the SGF tree yet, because I've avoided that. I have. Problem is, white will be Atari, have to connect. And now the question is, what do we do from here? If we connect, can we connect L5? And the answer to that is no, because that's Atari. So we're going to get taken. And Atari. You can see where this is heading. That looks like it hurts. But good question. Good question. So too many forcing moves here. Probably can't kill it. Time to do something else. So he goes back and uses the Azaji on the right-hand side, trying to get something here to live. Starting to cut through. Black says, no, I'm going to kill the stones. So white plays a bit of an odd move here. It looks like he's just killing himself at this point. Indeed. He is sacrificing his stones, but he's aiming at that Q11 stone. Or, if you want to call it Q10, the actual Atari, that works too. So he descends. White gets to take, and now we can't really run that out. So black sacrifices the stone, and then moves to keep separated. White's still not alive yet. Black is alive top and bottom, so this is still favorable. White's obviously going to try to move to make eye shape. And then he's going to jump out. Yeah, we've got triangles all over the place, actually. I mean, we've got them here, we've got them here, we've got them here. We've got triangles all over. So much work to unclick all those. Let's see, did I want to continue going over this game? From here, the game gets relatively complicated. I like this game because, well, I guess there's not too much of it left, is there? The game gets a little bit complicated here. I mainly just picked this game because of the opening. It kind of reminded me, like I mentioned before, of my last 3-down game. So I found it kind of interesting. Though this one's a lot more violent than mine was, obviously. But alright. Black decides to go ahead and link up, or try to. White threatens to go ahead and surround. Black doesn't care. And we'll see why later on, because he actually has to be he has to live there later on. Instead, black goes ahead and attacks the right-hand side. White tries to connect up and surround the offending stone that's attacking at L12. So black just follows in defending. And now we see what I mentioned. He has to go back and find out how he's going to live here. And a little bit of an interesting move. He plays a move that I usually never, ever, ever think about. I mean, you look at moves like this all the time when you're 20Q, and then you pretty much just you just erase them completely out of your head by about 10Q or so, and you never read this ever again. But here it actually works fairly well. Because here we see white try and kill the stone, which allows black to potentially cut, which we don't like. White goes and takes the stone, which means this can never be defended. Now, we could have gone ahead and defended, but this then turns real problematic. Because we're almost dead here. We can't go ahead and keep trying to kill this, because that'll just get destroyed. And it was the same with this. If we play here, we have to go ahead and defend. Now, black's pretty much completely connected out. We can't push, because that doesn't work anymore. So, black gets to live here. White connects up. Threatens to cut through. And the next few moves I'm just going to go ahead and go over very, very quickly, because the game ends very soon. Essentially, we see a few desperate attempts by white. He's trying to go ahead and make some profit in the middle by cutting off these stones, but that doesn't really work so well. He gets very, very desperate and determined to cut. But that little one stone all by itself at J15 is nowhere strong enough to even begin trying to kill the center. I mean, it's going to have to run way too far, and by that time, black's going to be so strong it's not going to really matter. Connect solidly. Gets himself a nice happy little base. White tries to strengthen his stones. And at this point, white went ahead and resigned. Because this is going to be Sente too. And after that, we're probably going to go ahead and see a center move. And at that point, the stones in the center are going to be too strong to actually try and attack. So the game ends here. But yes, like I mentioned, suffice it to say, I picked this game because I really like the opening. I can't really say definitively that this was an overplay by white. It's very, very aggressive. We can see what his ideas. We pretty much see why he wanted to play this way. But it didn't look like it panned out for him. I mean, he tried to go ahead and get a lot of strength to attack the bottom, but he gave so much strength over to black that he felt that he had to go ahead and immediately reduce that, otherwise he'd be in a lot of trouble, and at 6-line territory we can clearly see why that would be the case. Yeah, it was used as a probe. Oh, the one question I don't like to get, Shizuka. Yeah, about books. I really can't recommend any because I've only gone through, I want to say, about 4 of them. So I don't really know of many. And the ones that I would recommend I would recommend because I found them challenging for me. Like the Ego Hatsuyuron, which I don't really recommend people actually get in order to try to get better from life and death. That's something you'd only want to get if you want to give yourself a nosebleed. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the game.